ocean is full of monsters, vicious sharks, giant squids, poisonous fish, and whales which, while mostly docile, can grow larger than any other animal that has ever existed. But compared to the early Miocene and Pliocene epochs, swimming in the ocean today is a cakewalk. That's because between 23 and 3.6 million years ago, Earth's oceans were dominated by an animal so large and so terrifying that it's often considered the most perfect killing machine ever devised by nature. We're talking about the megalodon, a massive 60-foot-long shark with jaws that could quite literally bite a full-grown whale in half. Yet despite its popularity among scientists and moviegoers alike, we actually know very little about the megalodon. That said, what we do know is pretty darn terrifying. Otodus megalodon, commonly known simply as megalodon, is a thankfully extinct species of shark known primarily for its incredible size. Though commonly illustrated as nothing more than a much larger great white shark, scientists have long debated just what this colossal beast would have really looked like, and what it may have been capable of. For decades, the megalodon was classified as a member of the Lamnidae family, also known as mackerel sharks. However, recent studies have reclassified it into the extinct family Otodontidae, hence the name. Since this family diverged from the great white on the evolutionary tree during the early Cretaceous period, it's nearly impossible to imagine its appearance with any real accuracy. Well, one thing we can say for sure is that it didn't have feathers. Despite being considered one of the largest and most formidable predators to have ever swam in the oceans, the megalodon is known only from fragmentary remains, primarily teeth and a few scattered vertebrae. This scarcity of complete fossils leaves a lot of things up for debate, and as we'll see, some of the debates are more lively than you'd think. Unlike dinosaurs, whose bones remained hidden until the modern era, the megalodon teeth have been known since ancient times. In fact, they sparked a number of fascinating myths and theories over the course of thousands of years, a topic we'll discuss a bit later. But despite the well-known existence of its teeth, it wasn't until the 1830s that Swiss naturalist Louis Agassiz gave the megalodon its scientific name, dubbing it Carcharius megalodon. Agassiz released his theory about the creature along with an illustration largely based on the modern sand tiger shark. But in 1843, Agassiz revised the name to Carcharodon megalodon, recognizing that its teeth were far too large for the former genus and actually bore a closer resemblance to the great white shark. However, most scientists now believe these similarities are the result of convergent evolution rather than direct lineage. Time, technology improvements, and a wider fossil record have now convinced shark experts that the megalodon is most closely related to an extinct broad-toothed mako shark called Isurus hastalis, a fearsome creature in its own right. It was at least the size of the largest great whites around today. Although many questions remain unanswered, what is clear is that the megalodon seems to have enjoyed its position at the top of the ocean food chain for a very long time. The earliest remains have been dated back to the late Oligocene, or around 28 million years ago. Since it's currently theorized that the shark went extinct around 3.6 million years ago, the megalodon had around 24 million years to turn the ancient oceans red. The fragmentary nature of the megalodon remains has led to various size estimates over the years. Ancient sharks, much like modern ones, are mostly fat and cartilage. Since these are very rarely preserved, scientists have had to make most assumptions based on fossil teeth and vertebrae. And despite the changing family tree, it's widely agreed that the great white shark is the closest living analog for reconstruction. The theory is that if you can take one of its tooth and compare it to the tooth of a modern great white, some simple math will give you an estimate of the former's size. Still, it's likely that the first person to make this calculation was more than a little shocked. The most accurate estimates suggest that it could have reached up to 67 feet in length, though most specimens probably averaged around 40 feet. Either version is terrifying, as it means that even a juvenile megalodon would probably outweigh and outbite virtually all modern sharks. Again, despite very often being depicted as just a larger version of the great white, some scientists think the megalodon was actually stockier and fatter, similar to a basking shark. If true, this could suggest a different type of feeding behavior than what we currently envision. On the other hand, studies have recently come out suggesting that it wasn't fat or stock at all, but was long and thin, like a blue shark. Due to this disagreement, its body mass estimates vary widely. Mature males are believed to have weighed between 12.6 to 33.9 tons, while mature females could have weighed between 27.4 to 59.4 tons. This is an extremely clear example of sexual dimorphism, something still present in many modern sharks. But while this visual uncertainty fuels a lot of ongoing research and debate, the teeth tells a different story. The megalodon name means big tooth, and that reputation is very well earned. The shark's teeth are among the most significant fossils found, often measuring over 7 inches in height. In total, it had over 250 teeth arranged in 5 rows, which could span up to 6.6 feet across in larger specimens. But these teeth were not just large and numerous, they were also thick and serrated, which seems to indicate they were built for grabbing prey and breaking bones. More research backs up this evidence, with estimates claiming its jaw could exert a bite force of up to 140,960 pounds. Add this to the fact that the shark's jaw could potentially open to a bone-chilling 75-degree angle. It's clear that this sea creature would have been able to effectively pursue its prey in all aquatic environment. Then during the Miocene and Pliocene period, the Earth's climate underwent significant changes. It became cooler and more seasonal, marking a transition from the relatively warm Miocene to the cooler Pleistocene. Meanwhile, the oceans remained relatively warm, but continued to cool, leading to the formation of the Arctic ice cap and the development of deep, cold currents. This altered marine ecosystems over time, likely forcing the megalodon to evolve along with the changing Earth. Throughout its existence, the megalodon took up residence in a variety of marine environments, including deep water areas and shallow coastal waters. This predator's massive fossil distribution, found in Europe, Africa, the Americas, and Australia, is evidence that it hunts its prey wherever there's water. This wide range of habitats allowed the predator to exploit various ecological niches. However, theories state that it likely preferred subtropical to temperate latitudes, where it would have thrived due to the abundance of large prey. And as the climate cooled, the distribution of marine species, including its primary prey, changed significantly. This most likely contributed to the decline of the animal's population, as it preferred warmer waters and faced increased competition from other marine predators. But for 24 million years or so, the megalodon was the apex predator. Unlike the great white shark, which often attacks prey from the soft underside, scientists feel that the megalodon likely used its powerful jaws to break through the chest cavity, puncturing the lungs or heart of its prey. This would have disabled its victims immediately, simplifying the shark's mealtime. There are lots of questions regarding the megalodon's speed. It's speculated that the slowest it could possibly move would be around 16.5 feet per second, which is twice as fast as the great white shark. However, its size makes such estimates difficult. Though sharks are undoubtedly more streamlined, the fastest modern whale, the fin whale, tops out at 29 miles per hour, despite being 70 feet long. Combined with its speed, the megalodon bite marks on whale fossils suggest it employed different hunting strategies depending on the prey's size. Fossil remains of small cetaceans, for example, suggest that it would ram into them with great force from below before delivering a fatal bite. There is also evidence that the megalodon targeted the heads of early sperm whales, with the goal being to deliver a singular lethal bite that would break the whale's jaw, preventing it from biting back. With its size and swimming speed, Researchers estimate that this beast required around 98,000 calories daily. This is more than 20 times what a modern great white shark eats, and if its stomach was proportionate to those of living sharks, it could have had a volume of around 2,537 gallons, or 60 bathtubs. To meet these caloric needs, the brute likely targeted large prey such as whales, Earl seal-like creatures, and sea turtles. And when food became scarce, it may have also exhibited cannibalistic behavior, similar to modern sharks. This behavior would have provided an additional food source in times of scarcity and helped regulate population sizes, which tends to support the idea that early sharks would have been solitary creatures, only getting together to mate. We mentioned earlier that the megalodon teeth could be easily found on land and in the water thousands of years before anyone bothered to identify the species or give it a name. As such, the teeth have actually captivated human interest since ancient times. For instance, they were valued artifacts among pre-Columbian cultures in the Americas and were often shaped into arrowheads, knives, jewelry, and funeral accessories. Imagine getting shot by an arrow bearing a 20-million-year-old shark tooth fragment. Interestingly, the earliest written account of the megalodon's teeth comes from Pliny the Elder, a key historian who helped bridge the AD and BC eras. Writing in AD 73, he described the teeth as resembling petrified human tongues. These tongue stones were called glossopteræ, and most people believe they fell from the sky during lunar eclipses. Glossopteræ reappeared in European literature from the late 13th to 16th centuries, where they were ascribed with supernatural properties, believed to cure a variety of poisons. In fact, medieval and Renaissance nobility often fashioned these stones into protective amulets and tableware, believing they could detoxify poisoned liquids or bodies. Like the dinosaurs before them, the changing world of the Pliocene era slowly erased the megalodon from existence. Depending on which scientist you ask, its evolutionary branch either ended altogether or split off into any number of sharks that might or might not live today. What is clear is that few animals have managed to capture mankind's imagination or fuel its fear for quite so long, and while the ocean is still full of monsters, we can take a little solace knowing the megalodon isn't one of them.